I worked with a high-level coach this year, and it was the first time that somebody had my attention and said, I was talking about what clients wanted me to do or what prospective clients said that they were looking for. And she looked at me and said, Kim, I'm really not interested in what anybody else is looking for. I want to know from you, what do you want to be doing? And I was like, I don't know.
Hey, my friend, welcome to the Art of Online Business podcast. My name is Rick Mulready, and I'm an online business coach. I'm an ads expert, and most importantly, I'm a dad. And this show is where we help established online course creators and coaches create more profit, more impact with less hustle. All right, let's get into it. What's up, my friends? Welcome back to the podcast. Rick Mulready here. Thank you, as always, for coming to hang out. Super appreciate you. So today's one of those interviews where as soon as I hung up, I was like, we hung up on our rotary phones. No, as soon as I hit the stop button on our recording, I was like, I cannot wait to share this with you all. Joining me on today's podcast, actually today's in part 1 and next week is part 2. Her name is Kim Wensel, and Kim believes that we are more than our job titles. We are more than the CEO of our business, right? For over 12 years, Kim has helped organizations and individuals find meaning in their work and build a connection with others through data storytelling, copywriting, and personal branding. And today, Kim leads her own firm, which is called Pattern of Purpose, where she advises entrepreneurs on how to communicate who they are and what they believe on stage, on page, and in person. And so in our discussion between today and next week, Kim is going to be sharing, we're talking all about how to focus on what makes you happy and still be able to make money in the process, right? Because so many of us associate, well, I can't do this because it makes me happy in my business, right? Because I don't know if that's going to make me money. It's going to make me happy, but I don't know how successful it's going to be. And so then we just lean so far the other way and just only focus on the things that we know are going to move the business forward. Well, I want to help you begin to find that line between the two, right? Focusing more on what makes you happy, because that is what ultimately is going to help you grow your business, increase your profit, right? Because what I found in working with our accelerators who are already very successful business owners, and I found this myself in my business, the more financial success that you see in your business, the harder it tends to be to tap into what you really want. Because so many of us lose the fire in our business from when we first started it. We're a few or several years into our business. It's very successful, based on our definition. And then it's like, but it's not fun anymore. Well, this conversation is all about, incorporating more fun, what lights you up. And don't confuse this conversation with, this is not like a do what you love and they will come. No, we're running a business after all, right? And this is not a hobby. But this is all about how to focus more on doing the things that you align with, that light you up, that energize you. Because as Kim talks about here, there is a direct correlation about how you feel about your business and how other people feel about it. They can see it. And so we talk about a whole host of topics between today and next week. And that's why I wanted to break it down into 2 parts all around this topic of showing up as your authentic self and using your talents in an authentic way that light you up, and then watching the benefits that come as a result of you doing that. I am so excited to bringing this interview with Kim Wensel. Now, before we dive into it with Kim, if you're an established online course creator or you're an online coach, when I say established, you're doing at least $100K a year in your business, in your online business, and you're looking to take things to the next level, right? But you're not really sure what next steps to be taking, or you're likely overwhelmed in your business and doing all the things. Well, I want to invite you to apply. It's application only for my Accelerator coaching program. We help you make more profit, increase your impact with less hustle, right? And we do it through the lens of mindset, optimizing your sales and marketing, and optimizing your systems and processes. So if you want to be surrounded by an amazing community of other online entrepreneurs just like you, this is one-on-one coaching, group coaching, and a mastermind experience. So if you want to learn more and apply, go to rickmulready.com/accelerator. All right, my friends, let's do this. Let's go hang out with Kim Wensel. Kim, welcome to the podcast. How the heck are you?
I'm great. We've been planning for this, and the day is here, huh?
I know. It's been actually a while. I was thinking about that this morning, and I was like, it's been a while since we were like, okay, let's schedule this. And here we are. I'm pumped about today's episode.
Me too. I was going to reach out to you on Voxer and just share my excitement. And then I was like, wait, maybe he intentionally doesn't want to have a conversation so we can just save it for the airwaves. So that's what I did. I just kept you in the lurch.
Did you just call it the airwaves? Like, I feel like we're on old school radio right now.
Okay. You should know I'm actually an 80-year-old woman trapped in a 30-something-year-old's body. This is why many things you'll begin to understand them if you know that about me.
Nice. Well, for everybody who does not know who you are, why don't we start there? Who is Kim Wensel?
Good question. I am a mom. I have 2 little ones. My oldest is going to be 8 next month, which is a little crazy to me. I'm an entrepreneur. So I am in my second business. I started 9 years ago, but I only went full-time 2 years ago. So I don't really know how to answer the question, how long have you been in business? Because I feel like I did all of my learning along the way, but once your household depends on the income, you view business very differently. So I run a solo agency called Pattern of Purpose. And I say solo agency because, as we might talk about this year, I've tried expanding, realized very quickly I don't want to manage. I really like doing the work. And what is the work? It's communications, brand messaging, some coaching, and newest to the menu of services, I am hosting retreats, more and more of them for business owners. And we can dive into that, but they've been one of the most pivotal experiences that I've had as an entrepreneur, finding a community of people who really get it, meeting people that I wouldn't necessarily meet otherwise. So that's on the docket for 2022, but I tend to work with 2 different groups of people. So one would be entrepreneurs who need help communicating who they are. I like to say on stage, on page, or in person. And
I like that, by the way. Yeah.
I think in words. Thank you. And then kind of on the polar opposite side of my business, I work with large companies, startups, that just need fresh thinking around the way that they are positioning themselves, messaging. So for instance, right now I have a client who's building the first cancer app of its kind that's really going to help people going through cancer and their caregivers from time of diagnosis through treatment in a place and stage where there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of questions that come up. And usually the only place that they have to go to answer those questions is the emergency room. So there'll be sort of mental health, nurses, and then a community for caregivers and people going through cancer. So a wide variety of work. And I would say the through line is really helping people communicate in an accurate way who they are and what they want to be known for.
Why do you think people have such a hard time doing that?
I can tell you exactly why. It's funny. I'm doing a workshop tomorrow night on bios, writing your bio. And this one is specifically for audio narrators. What a niche, right? And so I'm reading through some of the comments that people have shared. And I think one thing is it feels very narcissistic to talk about yourself. We haven't been trained, I mean, especially women, underrepresented groups have not been trained to feel really comfortable promoting
Yeah.
ourselves. And so
Yeah.
the second that you feel like you have to put that hat on, I mean, you could be, if we weren't recording, you could be talking about yourself and sharing all the great things about yourself. And then the second that we feel like we have to turn it on where somebody's going to see it, we go from natural flow to, hello, my name is Kim. Like, there's just this
Right.
robot effect. And so one, I think that people are just uncomfortable talking about themselves. But two, I think that there's this sense that we have to sell or prove ourselves. And then it becomes really confusing. Well, how do I connect all of the things that I've done? And this won't make sense to people. And is this even relevant? And so there's this question of, well, am I focusing on what they want to hear, or am I focusing on what I want to say? So yeah, it's just, I mean, you've heard the saying, it's easy to market for somebody else much more than yourself.
Yeah. And that really, thank you for breaking that down, because that does make sense. And it actually, I won't mention any names, but that happened, I will say, this year on a podcast interview that I was doing. And it was very different from like the lead up conversations that I had with this person, and then the actual like hit record and then interview. And during the interview, I was like, what? I'm thinking to myself, what is going on? Right. Because this is very different. And then as soon as we finished, it was like snap fingers. And then I was like, wait, where was this person? Where was this person 10 minutes ago? Where was this person when we were doing the interview? And I just found it fascinating.
I think part of that too is this culture of the elevator pitch and the sense that we have to have this one way that we describe ourselves in anytime we're introducing ourselves. And so we focus so much. I used to do a lot of, I was trained in public speaking, and I was trained to have to memorize the whole script. And so I would just get so nervous. I would be so focusing on what I was supposed to say rather than being present in the moment. And I still think a lot of people train that way. Don't you think?
Yeah, I'll share my story about that after you're done what you're saying, because I have I have a story about that. But go on.
Yeah, no. So I think that well, I've been saying this a lot lately. I think there are very few times in our lives where we feel like somebody is actually there with us in the moment, listening to us. And because of that, we feel the pressure to have to just fire hose because we feel that timer running out and or counting down. And when you feel that pressure, you don't even know what's coming out of your mouth. You're just trying to get them to know everything about you. And instead of just being present in the conversation, you can tell when somebody is present in a conversation with you.
Yeah.
You can tell when they're more focused on asking you questions. Oh, I have a perfect example. Can I share this?
Please. Yes.
Okay. So I was at a meeting in Boston last week, and it was with the organization I mentioned that is bringing a new product to the market. And there were a group of us around the table, some in-house individuals from various teams, and then consultants that are helping with the PR launch. They're helping with marketing and ads and messaging. And so, of course, we need to know who's there. So we go around the table and it's like, okay, share who you are, what you work on. And then I think the icebreaker was the first job that you've ever had. So it's like, first person, boop, boop, boop. Second person goes around, right? I get to myself, I crack a joke, some self-deprecating humor like I do. And then the person after me, and he starts with well, my first job was, and then we're 5 minutes in, and then he's going off just about all the things he's done. And I thought, okay, this can't get worse. Like, obviously everyone else listening is going to recognize, all right, I don't want to be this guy. The last person around the table went on for 15 minutes, and I could just tell he just didn't know where to stop. And he was so unaware of what was happening because he was so stuck in his head about describing literally from his first job to now he's, what did he say? He's 57, every single position. And then I worked at this agency. And then I decided I didn't really like it there. So then I went out on my own. And then I met my partner in business. And then we named it I mean, so I guess moral of that story is the best way to get people interested in you is to ask them about them.
Yeah. I'm just picturing like that would have driven me absolutely nuts sitting at that table.
Yeah, me too. Well, it did.
And going back to, I love that because like right there is like the best way, asking others about what they're doing. And one thing I noticed is that when we started here just a few minutes ago, when you describe yourself, the first word that you use is I'm a mom. Most people say, here's what I do in my business.
Okay, that was on purpose though, Rick. I'm gonna be
No,
real
I know.
honest. But I had to actually think about that because I am that person that describes myself with my title, usually. Just trying to be fully transparent here.
But I'm telling you, I picked up on that.
Yeah.
And so why did you answer that way?
There's a very specific reason, and it ties into a lot of the work that I've been doing this year. So I am highly overachieving. I have 3 degrees, spent a lot of time in academia, and throughout my journey, which has not been linear, as most people, the way I oriented myself to the world was always through the job title that I had at that moment. So what does it mean to be an international development officer? What does it mean to be a grant writer? What does it mean to be a brand strategist? And so for so long, because work's really important to me, and because, I don't know, I guess I met my husband young. We had kids sort of young. That was always sort of there. I never really had to think about it. And so I have spent probably the last 10 years trying to figure out, how do I describe myself in a way that people can understand, but it also captures the breadth of what I do. And this has been a tussle. I mean, honestly, it's funny because it's what I do for other people. And it's the thing that I struggle with the most. Who am I? And what do I need to be prioritizing? And this year was the first time I made the conscious effort to be on where I was in a point in the day and a point in the week. And I'll be honest. So my oldest is going to be 8 next month and my youngest is 4. And for most of their life, I've been just fitting work into every nook and cranny when we didn't have something else scheduled. Now, part of that is growing a business and eventually wanting to leave the nonprofit sector I was in and go full time and just try to make it through the day. But I got to a point where I thought, like my daughter's starting to say things and adopt mannerisms. And I remember when she was little, she had a pretend cell phone and she's like, I'm mommy. I work all the time. I work, work, work. And when I don't work, she said something else. And of course it was hilarious, but I had a self-reflection moment of, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, whoa. And this is still me working at home. I'm still there for every meal time. It's not as though I'm working out of the house all day, every day, but where my attention has been, it was a real wake-up moment for me this year. And so I've been doing that work of, okay, I need to create space. I need to be intentional. I need to be as present with my kids as I am with my clients.
Yeah. I think so many of us can relate to that. Like for myself, like Maya's going to be 3 in a month from yesterday when we're recording this. And I catch myself like when I'm with her, like on my phone for a second or Slack messaging or my team or something like that. And at first I was like, no big deal, but I'm like, no, wait, she's picking up on all these things. She's seeing this, that, hey, daddy's on the phone when he's with me. Am I less important than his phone? And so that I'm still working on that. And yeah, I mean, I've experienced the same thing where I work from home. She literally just 2 minutes, I don't know if everybody heard it, but she just got home from preschool. My wife just picked her up, and, she knows that I'm, daddy's quote unquote working. And I'm really trying to, I want to be to show her what's possible in, doing what we're going to be actually talking about here is doing what makes you happy and being able to do that in the way of still making money in the process. I want to show her that's possible. I want to show her that, be the example of that for her, and that it doesn't always have to be hard and all that stuff.
I think it's going to be something that as entrepreneurs, we never just learn or make it, right? Because if you're anything like me, most of my best ideas happen when I'm not sitting in front of the computer.
Yeah.
And so there's this, I just have to be this awareness that, okay, there are going to be times where something comes to me and I need to capture it, or I do have to take a phone call, but it's that constant bleed that I think has been, I've had to realize, okay, we can't have that be all the time. I can't have my phone out and every time I hear something go off, I'm responding to it immediately. So it's just that awareness. And I know everybody talks about digital detox and all the things. I went off social media last December, and I'll be honest, even when we were taking hikes in the woods, I felt the difference of not going on and checking or posting a picture. And so, yeah, it's just something I'm checking in with all the time. And I don't think I'm ever going to have it figured out, because also it changed by stage. So when my kids were younger, it was so much easier for me to work and travel. And now that they're older and they have sports and I pick them up from school and they're just so much more aware of their surroundings and time, it's much harder actually at this stage than when they were newborns.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say when they were like, when they were 2. I was like, oh no, really?
Be like, get ready for what's coming.
I do want to go back real quick and tell that story, because I kind of teased it about memorizing your a talk. And I don't know how many years ago. Actually, I do. I take that back. This was 9 years ago. Before I even started this part of my business, I used to run a podcast called Inside Social Media, where I interviewed the heads of social media from the biggest brands around the world, like Ford and McDonald's and JetBlue and Lowe's and all this other stuff. And I did a talk it used to be called Blog World in Vegas. And I'd never done a talk before. And I was so nervous, so nervous. I hired a speaking coach, and I literally memorized the entire thing. And basically everybody who was in the audience they were all my friends, or like my wife was there. At the time, she was not my wife. At that time, she was my girlfriend. And I felt like you said, I was this robot, because I didn't allow any kind of emotion to come through, because I was so focused on remembering what the next thing said. And I nailed it, but I am still really good friends with one of the guys that was there. And he jokes about how that was. He was like, you were so nervous, and it just came across and everything. And anyway, contrary to how I am now, getting up on stage is it lights me up. I love it. It energizes me. And I almost under prepare. I have slides, but I'm not I don't really rehearse.
Neither do I at all, ever.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Never.
It just feels kind of like this interview right here. We haven't even talked about truly what we're going to be talking about, but I think what we're talking about is super helpful and super relatable to what so many online entrepreneurs go through, especially with families and especially with talking about themselves and presenting, who they are and what they do and so forth. And for so many years, like I wrapped up my identity into my business. Like I was my business. And it wasn't until several years ago where I was working with a coach and they were like, your business is completely separate of you. You are not your business. I was like, well, wait a minute. Yes, I am, because I'm the personal brand. And they were like, no. Yes, that's the case, but you are not your business. And so when I'm working with a student or when we're working with one of our accelerator members, it's like, and this is coming up for them. I want you to think about your business sits next to you in this chair or on this couch next to you. You can pat it on its head or whatever, but the business is over here. It's not you. And it doesn't say anything about who you are, whether it's going really well or it's not going well. It doesn't mean that you are a failure or you are this or that. It's like, it's the business.
That is such an important message that I don't know if I've ever heard anyone in business really talking about, because when you use the word personal brand, I think most people think, well, this is the bone that I have to pick with the industry. When most people say personal brand, they are saying build a business around you, like the business of you. And there's this really great quote that I saw one time, Christina Tosi, who runs Milk Bar. And on her site, on her personal site, it says, I am Milk Bar and Milk Bar is me and I am Milk Bar, but I am so much more than Milk Bar, right? So I'm definitely not saying it verbatim, but the idea is like, yes, Milk Bar could not exist without me because it is my brainchild. It is the energy that I show up with every day. It is my creative output, but I am so many other things too. And I love that you mentioned this because this is the struggle that I honestly have had most of my life as an entrepreneur, because it's like, well, if you don't want to have a team, then how do you take the emotion out of pricing? How do you separate what I post? Like, where's the line between sharing human-centered content and storytelling and your messaging going completely off the rails because you're going so heavy on the selfies of your kids that you're not talking at all about what you're selling? And if somebody doesn't know how to work with you, that's an issue. And that's where I struggled for a long time. Even just a small decision of, and I hear this still a lot from people, like, do I have a personal Instagram and a business Instagram? And for me, what that decision looked like this year is I consider myself a creative. I'm a writer. And I made the decision that I was no longer going to market myself outwardly as a copywriter for a number of reasons I'm happy to share. But I did feel like part of my identity was being stripped away. What does this mean about me if I don't write anymore? And I can't remember if it was a coach or just a colleague who said to me, well, what if you reserve all of your writing just for you? And you just write about what you want to write about without any expectation. And I was like, what does that look like?
Do you mean like creative writing? Do you mean just like...
So what I mean is that I'm creating KimWensel.com, which is a glorified blog. And I'm talking about what I went through with medical issues this year and how to navigate the health system and homeschooling my kid for half of the year while running a business, or here's my house tour. And there doesn't have to be these very specific messaging pillars that I have to follow because that makes sense for marketing, which is important to have a healthy business, right?
Sure.
But it's also very limiting when you feel like you want to share, and not everybody wants to, but for me, I'm somebody who that is how I process. And people get a lot out of it. And I'm someone who believes in genuine human connection. So where does that fit? If it doesn't fit in my business?
Can it fit in your business? And I'm asking more so, honestly, for myself,
Yeah.
because I struggle with this. I mean, for anybody who follows me on Instagram, for example, I have a presence there, but it's not very big, to be honest with you. And the reason for like, we can produce content on Instagram all day long about pulling quotes from like this interview or what have you, no problem. But I feel like I would rather do that a fraction of the time, but do more of what exactly like you're talking about. However, I have this mental block around it of like, people don't, I think, and I've been told by so many people that's not the case, that I think that like people don't care. I mean, like, why does somebody care that my setup, as an example right now, I'm playing around with my setup because I'm starting my YouTube channel and I have my camera literally in front of my monitor right now on a switch pod. And I love it because now it's mobile, and I just did this yesterday. But in order for me to see something on the screen, I have to go, I have to turn my, you know what I mean? So I'm like, why would anyone care about?
I'm going to push back on you because we've had 3 conversations now ever. So I feel like I could push.
Yes, please.
The thing is, though, the way that you talk a lot about your why in business, you bring up your family every single time.
Yeah.
And so honestly, the first time I went over to Instagram, I had to search for that. I was like, oh, I wonder, questions going through my head. I wonder if he shares his family on social media, or
Right.
if that's if he's someone who has decided I'm going to let my kid and wife decide whether they want to be on social media. I wonder, I think he said he lives near the beach. Where exactly? Those questions that I was going in, and it was, and then my next thought was, oh, he's really good at posting all of the stuff that he's doing. He's really good at repurposing his content. I could learn there. So it's a balance.
There you go.
It's a balance. But I think for me, it was more of, I felt the desire to go deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And it was actually this intentional pulling myself a little bit more out of pattern of purpose, because eventually I want to give space for pattern of purpose to be able to become bigger than me in whatever form that looks like, without having to know what that is now. And I have this inkling, I don't know why, call it intuition,
mm-hmm.
that eventually me as a person, I'm not going to be doing one-on-one calls for my whole career, right?
Yeah.
And to be able to separate them and talk about all of the sides of who I am, which is as a mom, as somebody who used to work in international development and nonprofits, as someone who, I don't know, all the things, right? All of the things without the pressure. And that's just what I need in this season of life. I need to be able to share more than here's what I'm selling today, or here's what's coming up, or here's the podcast that I was on. And I can do those things in pattern of purpose, and I can feel stronger about sharing those things because it's with intentionality and knowing I'm not losing that other side of me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just, like you said, it's what you need right now in this season of your life. And you're staying quiet enough to be able to listen to that. And then saying, you know what, this is what I need. And I think that this is what I'm going to do in order to achieve that, or to be able to honor that, I should say. And do I know if this is the right thing or not? I have no idea, but I'm going to give this a try right now.
Yeah. Not having expectations around it has been really important.
I think that's where I can learn a lot from that as well. Because you mentioned like, am I one of those quote unquote who shares their family? And it's really interesting because I don't share pictures of Maya anymore. And the reason for that is because my wife has an online business as well. She's a health coach. And early on, she posted a picture with Maya, and somebody took the picture and was like posting it on their own account on Facebook. and like it freaked us out. And
Oh
so
gosh, I'm going to have nightmares now
so
about
that's
what
why
I'm
I don't
doing.
that's why I don't share. I'll share if anybody, follows me on Instagram. By the way, I'm at Rick Mulready. Kim, what's your Instagram?
At pattern_of purpose, but also at Kim Wensel.
Okay, cool. So there are a couple of different accounts for different types of things. And so for anybody who follows me, like they'll notice, maybe not, I'm okay with showing, the back of Maya's head or something like that. Because I struggle with that because my why, but I'm not comfortable sharing things with her or pictures of her. Like the other day, I like to take her to the beach here. We're in San Diego. The beach from where we live right now is like 20 minutes away. And there's a picture of her. I forgot to bring her bathing suit to the beach because I didn't think we were going to go in the water. That was not the right choice. And here she was laying down in the wet sand with all her clothes on, just leaning on her arm, just like looking out into the water. So I was like, this is so classic her. I took a picture from behind her of that. I'm okay with that sort of thing, right? But it's just more of like doing it like you said, just doing what makes, if I feel good about it, and doing it without expectation.
I think the other thing that I believe is relevant to this conversation is the balance of curated versus in the
Yeah.
moment. And I think for those of us who do want to create very human-centered brands, who very much care about the human side of what we're selling and the experience that we're creating, it's very hard to do that if you're planning 100% of your content in advance. And, I'm at the other end of the spectrum where I've had so many people say, Kim, can we just get a content calendar? And I'm like, I can't write unless I'm inspired in the moment. And I have to type it on my phone in that moment. And I have people look at me thinking, gosh, and so I need to, part of why I pulled things apart, but we're running online businesses. We're not walk in the front door and just peep the shop.
Right. I definitely take that. I think like, wait, why doesn't somebody know that? You know what I mean? Like I take it for granted. And so one thing I have been thinking about doing is because I'm telling all of our accelerators. And by the way, for those of you listening right now who have podcasts, we are recording this the middle of November 2021. In 2022, everything I'm hearing right now is that YouTube is creating some form. I have no idea what it will look like, a podcasting platform, and will be focusing and highlighting video podcasts. And so if you're not already, kind of like exactly what we're doing right now, I have my camera on, Kim has her camera on. We're using riverside.fm. I need to get like an affiliate link for them. I don't have it, but we're recording it. It's video and audio. Then my team takes it and does their thing with it. But add a video portion of your podcast and get it on YouTube. So I don't even remember what. Oh, so anyway, so I'm starting a YouTube channel. It's on the house. It's all part of our interview here. I'm starting a YouTube channel, which is going to, like a YouTube style videos. The podcast is on its own channel, full episodes. And I also have a clips channel, like highlights from this interview, for example. And so I don't know a whole lot about creating a YouTube channel. And so what I'm going to start doing is I am going to start sharing like what I'm going through, like the kind of equipment that I have. And it's not a whole lot. And like what my mindset is around it and what's holding me back. And I've had topics for a month now, and like all that type of stuff. But a lot of times I do take it for granted. And I'm like, people don't really care about this.
I was facilitating a retreat this past weekend, and it was for women who are just starting or pivoting their business. And I go in thinking that I need to talk so high level. And you know where we spent the majority of our morning? Defining what success looks like a year from now. And half the group was in tears, right? Because it's just,
Yeah.
we're just used to making things really complex. And like you said earlier, it has to be hard. It doesn't, though.
I think that's really interesting to me I'm actually not surprised that there was a lot of time spent on that, because I think that so many people can't clearly answer that question. And for the longest time, I couldn't answer that myself. Like I would finish every single day, and I'm not even talking like years ago, I'm talking the not so distant past. Like I would finish a day and, it could have been a day where I had like 4 podcast interviews and like 2 coaching calls or something. And I would finish the day and I'm like, oh man, I didn't get enough done today. And I would beat myself up and I would be like, in that grumpy transition from quote unquote work Rick to, dad and husband Rick upstairs. And somebody said to me one day is like, well, where are you going? Like, how are you defining success? Like, what are you measuring this against? And I was like, oh yeah, nothing. So I'm like, I'm playing a losing game here because if I'm not comparing it to something, like where am I going, for example, and how am I feeling about what I'm actually getting done, then this is just a perpetual loop of every single day I'm mad at myself or what have you for feeling like I didn't get enough done, but against what? Compared to what? And I couldn't answer what.
Well, and I worked with a high level coach this year, and it was the first time that somebody had my attention and said, I was talking about what clients wanted me to do or what prospective clients said that they were looking for. And she looked at me straight in my eyes on the screen and said, Kim, I'm really not interested in what anybody else is looking for. I want to know from you, what do you want to be doing? And I was like, I don't know. I think I don't want to do anything, because I was just so burnt out at that point. And that was the beginning of the end. But, like the unraveling of, whoa. It's such an amazing thing that as an entrepreneur, I can decide I want to do something and I can go after it. And it's such a harmful thing that I can be an entrepreneur and see something and go after it, because we rarely take the time to acknowledge what we've accomplished. And so one of my master's degrees, one of my degrees,
which is amazing, by the way. Like, that's awesome.
I went to school for social work. I'll just put it that way. And a lot of what we talked about was celebrating successes and acknowledging wins, both with ourselves, but also with clients, because sometimes just acknowledging how far you've come can be the difference between being able to keep going and being stuck. And we don't do that enough. I would say most people don't do that enough, but especially creatives or ideas people or visionaries, however you want to categorize yourself, because it's almost like, think about the last time that you had an exciting idea for something that you wanted to sell. So you take the notes in your notes app and you write things down in your notebook, and you're like, this is how it's going to be. And if you're anything like me, you start putting a skeleton of like, here's email 1 that's going to go out, and then email 2. And it's just like, you can't keep up with the ideas that are flowing. And then something gets in the way, and then something else, and you come back to the idea and you're no longer excited about it, but you feel like you have to do it. It's kind of like the book that you open up and you feel like, okay, well, I'm halfway through, so I should just finish it even though you don't like it. And so that's the thing. Like, we get to decide, but we feel like we're in chains to all of our ideas. And we don't take that time to say, wait. Was I excited about this? And I think when we first talked, it was that realization that someone that supports me, she said, are you excited about this because it's actually exciting to you? Or are you excited about this because it's exciting to someone else? And being able to disentangle those two things and recognize, okay, so I vibe off of other people's energy a lot. I'm an extrovert. I love being in community with people. So it's really easy for me to just, if I have another passionate person on the other end, we start going, it's so easy for me to keep going and to be able to stop and actually ask myself, wait a second. Do I really want to be doing this? Or does it just feel good to have this thought partner who wants to be doing something together? Whether it's a collaborator, whether it's a client, whether it's a customer, whoever it is.
Podcast interview.
Yeah, that too. Sure. No, I would say podcast interview energy probably matters the most.
Oh, yeah, totally.
And it's a one-time thing.
Well, who knows?
Who knows?
Have you back on the show. So a lot of what you're talking about, and we keep alluding to it, is just being true to ourselves, allowing ourselves to be true to ourselves and focusing on what we want to be doing, what makes us happy, what we like. When often, like what you just said, I think you put it perfectly. You're like, does this make me happy, or am I doing this to make somebody else happy? And I think another way to look at that also is like, am I doing this because I really want to do it, or am I doing it because I think it's going to help my business? And oftentimes when we look at it through that lens, people make the decision to do it because they think it's going to help their business, but yet it doesn't light them up. It's not something that they're really passionate about doing. Okay, so that was part one of my interview with Kim Wensel. Coming up next week is going to be part two, right? And so in part two, we have a discussion around doing things in your business because you really want to do them, or are you doing them because you think it's going to help your business, and how to really walk that fine line. Okay. We talk about the more financial success that you've seen, usually the harder it is to tap into what you really want to be doing, what really lights you up. And we started to touch on that here today. We talk about why you have to take the time to define what success looks like for you. Otherwise, you are just spinning your wheels in your business. And I share personal experiences there. We talk about how people will make decisions on whether to work with you based on how you show up in your marketing, how you show up in your energy, because there is a direct correlation between how you're feeling about your business and then how other people feel about it as a result. And we talk about those things and a whole lot more coming up in part two of our interview here with Kim Wensel next week. So until then, my friends, be well, and I'll talk to you soon.